Hi there, welcome back to my studio. If you're new to my videos, this is just me, John Interkin, often known as Mr. E, here in my studio where you'll watch me paint, listen to me talking about my painting as I go along, maybe get a little news about the art world and some about art history. So let's get going. Hi folks, it's Mr. E again, or John, depending on how you feel about it. And we're back here working on Nellie this time. Hope you have had time and energy to watch the previous couple of videos about Nellie. This is video 3 on working with her. And what I've decided is she's a pirate. It's Nellie the Pirate Puppy. So I think the Pirate Puppy needs to have an eye patch. And since these eyes aren't quite equal, this one's a little bigger than this one, I think I'm going to put the patch over this one. That'll allow me to work a little more later on this one to get it a little more glassy. But to do the patch, I will go over to my palette or my pile of pencils that I keep, and I'm going to grab one here that is pretty much just a black, and I'm going to start here just below her ear and come up here with a very light line. Just don't want to cut off too much if I don't have to, and then come over this way. And we're going to call that her patch, and then we'll start small and come down like this here. Yeah, we need to get bigger here. What I'm doing now is I'm just roughing things in to kind of give me an idea of where the patch will be, and to that end I'll now start firming up and making a little wider this band that is going to hold that patch on her. Come down this way. I'm not pressing very hard here. I'm wanting to keep this quite light. I think what I will do though is as I work, I'm going to take this tissue paper and put it here so I can get my hand on here without risking smearing a whole lot of that. So now I think I'm going to take a kneaded rubber eraser here, and I'm going to kind of soften things up here just to make it easier for me to cover her up here. I think the best way to do this is a black pencil. This is a Stabilo Carbothello. As you've heard, it's my favorite thing to say about this. But Nellie is going to have that eye blackened out. But I'm not going to make it so boring that it's just a black thing. So I think what I'll do is grab myself a nice medium dark gray here, and then I can go a little stronger over the previous eye so I can blank it out better, but not cover everything in black, because I think what I'd like to do, not right now but later, is I think I'd like to go ahead and put a pattern on here, maybe a skull and crossbones in grays and blacks on here to look like it's maybe a raised surface, like a, what is the right word? Embossed, I guess, maybe. Anyway, you see where I am here, and I'm going to use some of this gray here because before I get done, in order to make this look like really shiny black leather, I'm going to need to have some highlights and shadows on this whole band around here, not to mention on the actual patch itself. So to do that, I'm going to have to wait until I get the rest of the face done so I know exactly where my highlights and shadows are coming from. The actual photo I'm working from, which I'll show you on my iPad, is right here. And this is actually a zoomed in version of Nellie. Oops, come on. And you can see the original photo was much bigger. But bringing her in here to just ear width, like that, I can get a better details. And when I really want the details in here, which I may want in a few minutes, I can go into here and really find out what I'm dealing with. But I think for now, if my iPhone will cooperate, my iPhone must now cooperate. All right, I'm going to put the pencil down, John, and since you're doing a video, you need to do this without swearing too much. This works really fine most of the time. There. Now I will take it out of your direct vision so I won't give you a headache. And I'll move back over here. Now, as you saw on the iPad, Nellie's skin is nowhere near this yellow. And I don't mean skin, I mean fur. But she's a short-haired dog, very short hair, especially around the face. So I'm going to have to find better pencils to come around here to get these colors tamed down. And I think if you watched the previous videos, you saw I was struggling a little bit to find the right one. Well, since the last video, I have gone back to my huge pile of pastel pencils and found some lighter ones. So now I'm going to play around a little bit with trying to use some of those. And I think a lot of this is going to require me, as I see going along here, still trying to keep my pencil marks the same rough directions as Nellie's fur. But I think what I'm going to need to do is go to here, which is a near white, and I need to get in here a little more pressure and whiten up this whole area in here. I think I got everything a little bit too yellow previously. And I don't care if I go across my little newly assigned patch band here, because I'm going to fix that later anyway. So now I can lighten up all of these things that I did before, but at the same time, I don't want to just make them go away. I'm not going to use a big stick here and just make everything white. I want to keep the idea of this fur coming around here. The fur over in here is a lot darker, so I'm going to go easy over here, and it starts getting a little whiter under her eye here and around her eye. I've got to build up some three-dimensionality here, even though the photograph, which is a good photograph taken by my son Eben, grandson John, sometimes they feel like my sons. In any event, he is the owner of Nellie, although sometimes I think it's the other way around, and I think he would agree with me at times. Nellie, I think now, is probably 3 years old? Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to ask him. Not very old, and she's still got a horrific amount of puppy in her, believe me. She tolerates me. And that's, she likes everybody else, but she just tolerates me. They often say that the way a dog reacts to a person tells you a lot about that person, which worries me a bit because I've always gotten along really well with dogs, but I love dogs. But Nellie doesn't seem to think I'm all that cool. It might be a family trait. I'm not sure I'm highly respected elsewhere either. But that's okay. I've got another grandson, which you don't know it, but you're kind of seeing right now. No, it's not Nellie. My other grandson is Michael. He's just turning 30. No, he actually turned 30 last April. And Evan is 26. And Michael lives in Portland, Oregon. Evan lives here in the Columbus area. And he's a brewmaster with a brewery designing yeast. It's kind of cool. He's got a degree in genetics and all other kinds of test tube sort of things, but he started making beer in college and really fell in love with it. Was able to get mixed up with too much yellow in here. Got to get rid of some of this. Got to press a little harder, make that go away. He started working for this company that was just starting, a brewery up in Powell, Ohio. And he's been with them for a long time and doing really well. Seems to really enjoy it, and I'm happy about that. Michael, as I said, you're kind of seeing, because he is my graphic arts person and editor. He's a great artist in his own right, but he has a business called Midair Maintenance, and he designs websites, builds websites of all kinds, and he also does album covers and lots of other kind of graphic arts things. But we kind of got together a couple of months ago and talking about what we could do together, because he kept wanting me to do videos. And I do Zoom classes every week, either on an evening or a daytime. It's going into Wednesday afternoons now mostly. But I have classes on Zoom, and people follow along with me painting in every medium you can imagine. I think this week we're going to do a pastel. Last week we did a watercolor, and the week before that was an acrylic. But Michael talked me into starting to work on these videos. And he's a real wizard with this whole editing stuff, which is totally, completely a foreign language to me. So I do these videos here in my studio in Ohio, and when I'm done, I send the completed videos along to him, along with the audio and everything else he's taught me to do. And then he takes that and edits it down with some high-speed stuff and cleans up some of my mistakes. And from that, he's able to create these videos that you're now watching for YouTube. And they're much higher quality than I could ever get out of the Zoom, although Zoom is wonderful, great, I love it. And so do my students. I also do a free, everybody that wants to watch, art talk with Zoom on Tuesday evenings. And I just discuss art history, so forth. And also, I show pictures of all of my students' work or anybody else who's been doing paintings, and during the week, and we discuss those, critique them, and it's a good group. Anybody who feels like it watching these, contact me and I'll set you up with a link, if you would like, to join us on a Tuesday evening. All right, back to poor Nellie. I'm been working on this area around here, as you see, just getting some basic color in. Not very exciting at this point. I got tremendous amount to work on here. So I think what I'm going to do now is instead of using black, I'm going to use a darker gray and some black, and I want to get the details of the nose and mouth area in. Not to any completion, but I want to get the blacks and dark grays into here. And then I'm going to shift over and get into more of the details around in here, so I can start bringing these up to more reality. I'll probably get a little bit of roughness into the ears before I get too far. Okay, I think I've been quiet long enough. I think it's time to let you know where I'm headed next here. I'm going to go up along here and work my way up like this, getting some of the gray in. I wanted to find this jaw, so it looks like it's more coming forward as it should. Here, it doesn't show as much on this side because what little bit of light and shadow there is gives a little bit more of a highlight right in here, which I'm going to go for with an actual white in here now and get just a little highlight going right along this jawline, and then let it break up some into here, like this somewhat. And we'll deal with some more of this as it gets down here, because there's more excitement I can create down in here. This side over here doesn't have, you can see where the highlight is by this spot right in here, which I'm going to increase a little bit. That is where the highlight is on his nose. And her nose. Nellie's a doggy. That is a girl doggy. But coming up this way. And this out here is never going to be white. It's going to be more of a very, very palish gray kind of thing out here when it gets out into this way. And the hair is still quite short, so I'm crossing these lines a little bit so it doesn't look too much like there's a lot of activity out there. Now I got this one, but I might look for and find one that's even a little bit lighter and come out up in here. It's still gray, but I don't want much color, much contrast. I don't want a lot of darkness up in here, just a little gray. Now I can add a little gray over on this side too, even though it's not as dark, but it's also not a pure white over here, but I've got to lighten it up some because it's got too much yellow going on. And I can use this with a little more pressure to get rid of some of the yellow I shouldn't have put in there the other day. And then I can come back in with this lighter gray and come all the way up here and down through here, and it will kind of neutralize some of that. I got some more to do around in here because we still got an eye socket in both cases to deal with, and that's going to make things much different when we get there. So we're headed in the right direction. Got a little bit more light grays to go up in here now. It's not really any real whites. This is all going to remain a nice gray up in here, but it's very, very pale. She's got a very beautiful face, And I want to try to get that sort of gentleness she has about her, although I've seen her in action, and she's, when she feels like it, she's anything but gentle. She's not ferocious by any means, but boy, she can play. I don't think she's ever going to grow up. And I think that's a really great attribute which we all should be striving for. Now I am going to have a little more color coming down into here. And if you'll notice, this is a different pencil. This is a general. Now they make about 36, I think, different colors. These are the least expensive of all the pastel pencils. They're a little bit harder than your others, the Faber-Castell or the Stabilo, but they're still a good pencil. I know a lot of pet portrait people that are excellent artists that use these exclusively. So there's no reason not to, but they do have a different feel to them. And I usually use them on the upper layers or in blending because they really don't make a very strong mark. You got to really press, and then it kind of breaks up the paper, which I don't want to do. But you can see they give a little different look to it, and sometimes that hardness actually gives it a little bit of a help. So now as I work up into here in this area, I got to start getting some grays in here because we got an eye socket we have to deal with, and it's going to get darker here in a minute, but right now I'm just going to do this. But while I'm doing this, I might also want to show you, as I did in the last video of Nellie number 2, that a lot of artists have had dogs, a lot of very, very famous artists. And let me show you one now. This is Lucian Freud. And Lucian Freud had his famous dog Pluto. And Pluto was very close with him. And in 1988, he bought a little whippet puppy, and he called her Pluto. And the artist Pet appeared in numerous dog portraits, and they spent 12 years together. He did many pictures with her, and she was also immortalizing, or Pluto was, on age 12 here, and then he had many paintings he did where Pluto was included. His friend David Dawson would bring his dog, Eli, and she happened to be a guest from Freud to Dawson, and he painted the dogs together also. So there's the two of them together. And you can see here, he spent a lot of time with Eli after Pluto died. I think she probably reminded him of her grand aunt. So that's one other artist that had a lot to do with dogs. Now, getting back to the painting, I'm going to do a little bit more here on Nellie, and then I'll shift over and maybe let you just listen to good music for a while I scribble along here, trying to get more details and definitions in. But I'm wanting to lighten up certain areas here before I get too far along. And I think the thing I need to work on now, not so much here, I think what I'm going to feel better about is if I get a pretty good amount of detail down here to the collar. And I'll just sort of quickly rough in the collar edge here, just calling it here. Don't move around much, Johnny. And I'll just come down here and Just kind of give it an edge like that. It's going to come down this far, I think. It'll have a lot of stuff going on it when I get over there. Although I'm not sure. I may change this entirely. It's a pirate. He may need to have a red scarf here, or I don't know, it's got that hat we're going to have to think about later. So I'll deal with this later. It may require he need to have a captain's shirt on or a jacket or who knows. She'll get there. But let's go ahead and get things more complete down here to the collar, and then we'll take it from there. And to that end, I'm going to pop up here for just a second and get a little bit more done with the ears so they look a little closer to complete. Start out by putting this up here so I don't drag stuff all over the place. And now we'll see what kind of pencil. That's a little bit too pink. Let's see what this one does. That might be too orange. Yeah, probably, but we can get some color in there. Again, this is one of the generals. Look at that point. That thing comes to a heck of a point. And doing that, I think I showed once before, but this is my favorite pencil sharpener. They make electric and handheld. This is the handheld. I like that better. AFMAT is the brand, and it will create that kind of sharpness. Unfortunately, it works really well with graphite or something harder such as these general pencils. Don't even try it when it comes to the Stabellos or the Faber-Castells, because they'll just break in a heartbeat, which is okay, because there are other ways, which if you've watched one of my shorts, or I think I talked about it in one of my first video of Nellie, I do use my X-Acto knife and sandpaper. And that's a pretty good way of sharpening these delicate pencils. I'm just going to rough these in enough to let us know where those ears are, so I'll feel a little bit better about what I do when I get down here into her neck. There's things going on there, and I think I can give it a little bit of three-dimensionality even at this point, even though it's really just roughed in by coming up here like this, giving her a little bit of darkness, and I'll sneak some lightness in, maybe right along here. Let her fold over a little bit there, and lighten up out here on this outer edge like that. That'll get her a start anyway. Same thing over here. We'll just get things started. Again, this one doesn't have the strong highlights. It's got actually more color showing than the other side does by quite a bit. But it's still got a little fold over area that comes down here, even under the hat. We're going to bring that out and come down here a little bit. I'm adjusting things a little bit from the photograph since we've stuck a big hat on top of them. And I'll come underneath here. Yeah, I think I'll got some shadows building up in here underneath that ear. But I don't want to go too far, because her actual skull side here would be coming in a little more like this. No, it's not dark enough so you can even see it. But this is. Now I can build some color underneath here, like that. And then I can take the darkness, which will get even darker here in a bit, but I can take it up that far, I think. and build some real black into here, like that. And then I get the gray just above here as it rolls back out. And then I'll go ahead and move this highlight out a little bit more, like that. And I can build on all of this a little bit later when I get up to more like the details of this area, rather than play with it right now. But there's also a lot of gray going on up here, so I'm going to add some more of that in here so she doesn't get too colorful. She's got a beautiful color to her, this blonde, soft blondness, but it's definitely not a deep orange or red or anything like that, which is kind of where I was headed, which is not a good thing. So I'm going to put some color down in here because she's got some, but she's got more than that. So we'll go over to here. And I've got some other ones I could use. Let's see what this will do to me. I can also come down here because this is never going to be in the picture. That's too yellow. But I can lighten some of these up. Here we got another one. Oh, that's better. And this is the lighter. This is a Derwent pencil. The three main brands, of course, I'm still talking about General being one, that would be the fourth. But the three main brands that I use are Derwent, Stabello's Carbothello, and Faber-Castells. And I find those, there's enough colors, there's probably a couple of hundred or close to it in using these. And that's ample for me to get anything I want, whether it be pet portraits or people portraits or still lifes. When it comes to landscapes and somewhat in still lifes, I'll shift over to sticks, certainly with the landscapes. I'm kind of looking forward to doing one of those soon. And I'm going to be doing a still life in pastels, which will be mostly these pencils. I'm actually going to be doing it in a class this coming Wednesday afternoon, it looks like. And that'll be fun. We're going to do some pumpkins in gourds, but that's a whole other story. And as always, we do have stories when we want to. And I'm going to try to get a little bit more definition in here, working along. Got to change the direction of things over here. It's almost white. I usually end up with this many in my hand. Sometimes that's not a good thing. But right out in here, the hair's a little softer and it comes out this way much more than I'm allowing it. So I'm going to come out this way with it, soften it up, and fill it in a little bit more. This neck hair underneath here, her fur underneath here, is very delicate, soft, and gentle. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. Got to get a little nut lightness over in here. And again, it might not look it to some, but this is still just roughing things in. I've got a long way to go to smooth these out and get these colors more delicate, get everything about here more delicate. But we will. And speaking of Nellie, if anybody watched the last video, you will see that I often referred to Nellie as Lucy. Now, Lucy was a cat, not a dog. And Lucy was a very close companion to Evan, who I think Evan had Lucy since he was probably 10 years old. And I'll show you a couple of pictures of Lucy because she is quite a cat. And this is a portrait of Lucy I did, oh gosh, I think that was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And when he went off to college, when he got out of high school, he took Nellie over to me, and Nellie lived with me for the next 4 years. So Nellie and I were really close. And she was a wonderful cat, tremendous amount of personality, I will say. But she was a great cat, and if you didn't think we were close, there she is, and I'm painting her portrait. And that's me with a little more hair than I've got now. But she was a wonderful cat, slept with me for 4 years, and then after he got out of college, when he started working, every once in a while when he was going to go on a trip or whatever, he would bring Nellie over and she'd spend a week with me, which was great. So Nellie and I were very close for her whole life, and I'll get back here to the painting now, but she died, I guess probably, I'll probably get it wrong, but probably about 2 years ago or close to it. Evan had already had Nellie at that point, and they, I won't say they got along, I would say that Lucy tolerated Nellie, and but she knew how to drive Nellie crazy, and she knew how to get Nellie in trouble. She would tease Nellie into chasing her, and then she'd go and hide, and Nellie would get yelled at. So that was Nellie's puppyhood, I would say. She spent a lot of time literally in the doghouse. There are many stories of how Lucy managed to get Nellie in trouble more than once. But she was the world's greatest cat. Although I don't know a cat lover out there who wouldn't say no. My cat was the world's greatest cat. I think I even know a couple of those ladies. Anyway, there's got to get more variation. You know, I've got to get more undulation to his skull, her skull, sorry, Nellie. I want to get more of the details also. And the trick is, when you're working with, this is a lot easier with a long-haired dog or even a tremendously short-haired dog like a Chihuahua or something, which I've done many of. But with a dog with sort of an intermediate kind of thing, you're having to bounce back and forth between light and shadow to create a sort of speckling of short fur coming through here. Okay, I think we can take a bit of a break now, and I'll move on here in just a minute with some more. And right now, I'm just going to go ahead and take a little break. Please like, subscribe, notify, and let me know if you have any comments about the work we're doing already. And we'll talk more about these things later. Good luck on the rest of your painting adventures if you're doing any, and I'll see you soon.